I feel really excited. I feel like many of the brothers and sisters that I have been talking to, just feeling the lightness, tuning into the energy of the environment. It feels like a lightness is kind of coming upon us, and why not? Let's receive it. It is so many things that we're celebrating. It has been such an important weekend with the Supreme Court passing marriage equality. I'd like to read you. This is from CBS News. One second. Okay, this is a live show, and my internet is going off. So I'd like to start with a quote that had me thinking today about marriage equality. And this is from Scott Fuhita. And it says, "In articulating all my feelings about marriage equality, I almost do not know where to begin. And perhaps that's part of the problem. Why do we have to explain ourselves when it comes to issues of fairness and equality? Why is common sense not enough?" Another quote that I would love to that got me thinking is, "Marriage equality is a term so ridiculous on its face that when you hear it mentioned, you would think you were in Vidya. Years from now, perhaps we can lose the equality part and the same-sex part and call it marriage," which is, I think, what many of us would like. But, we need to celebrate everything as we get it. This has been a huge win, and I think something that we have needed for so many years as a society. I mean, the right to marry should be something that is afforded to everyone, and I'm glad that we in America are moving closer to that. The Supreme Court decision 5-4 is a big step forward, and of course, that will probably mean some challenges in the days ahead. But let's just bring in our guest this morning. It's James Governell. Let me introduce a little bit more about this beautiful brother. He is a holistic health counselor and career coach, founder of and creator of HighHeart Wellness. Living in Brooklyn, New York, he works with health practitioners throughout the world to improve the quality of their practice and services. James received his training at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. In addition to graduating, he was also able to satisfy one of his career goals in working as an online educator for 5 years, assisting others in training at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Currently, James works one-on-one with individual clients who want to increase their capacity to provide services to others while maintaining their own health and growth. He conducts programs for wellness practitioners who choose to overcome barriers in their career. These programs primarily focus on how to increase skills that provide higher client compliance and retention. Greater confidence and effective time management comes with the understanding and practice of these methods. We invite you to check out his ebook called Are You Ready?, which outlines how he guides clients through the process of behavior change regarding health goals. You can learn more by visiting www.HighHeartWellness.com or email jamesgovernale@gmail.com. And this information is also posted at the summary of our show page, and this link will be active once this show is not live on the air. You could continue to listen to it over and over and over again. So let's bring in our beautiful brother, James. How are you this morning?
Hello, Rosangel. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Wow, it's so interesting to hear somebody recite that about what I've been up to and what I'm doing in this world with holistic health counseling. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's customary as when we start the Cafecito Break that we move into a gratitude reflection. And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but you've got such a beautiful soul that I think that this was something that you'll have no problem doing. And I would love to invite you to share maybe a reflection of gratitude with us this morning, whatever comes to you.
So what am I grateful for?
Yeah. Anything?
I'm grateful. Like you were saying, the lightness of being. I feel like at times this weekend was very heavy in terms of things that were on people's minds and things that were happening. But then I would come around to this airiness quality of feeling good and being happy, and just happy for so many other people. As you said, I'm the founder and creator of HighHeart Wellness. And HighHeart is the higher part of our heart. It's loving everyone, our whole planet. And I feel like when things like this happen, that's what's going on. So to connect with that for me, I'm so grateful that, as people, we're able to see just beyond loving the person in front of us, but also loving everyone and getting a sense of what that's like in the world today. So I'm so grateful for that, and I'm grateful to have discussions like this with you. You and I can do this, but to bring it to other places and to just do it when we want, and it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, James. It does feel really amazing. I feel very privileged to have the freedom to be discussing this subject, because in many other places we forget that just this freedom that's being censored in other places, we still have the right to express ourselves, even though we can argue that it's being limited and maybe intentionally trying to be stifled. But right now, today, we still have the opportunity to gather, the opportunity as people to talk about things as a community. And Cafecito Break was created with the intention to bring community together, to talk about things like this when it's a big moment for humanity, the big moment in America, a big moment for gay brothers and sisters, and everyone. This impacts everyone, and some people get so scared when new things happen or things that seem contrary to their belief system. And I know we spent some time talking about that yesterday. So I finally found the article. My internet's working now. So in a historic development for gay rights and institution of marriage, the Supreme Court has ruled that same-sex couples have the constitutional right to marry. Specifically, the 5-4 ruling in Overgefell versus Hodges declares that the 14th Amendment requires all states to perform same-sex marriages and recognizes same-sex marriages performed in other states. No union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. And this is a quote from Justice Anthony Kennedy. And forming a marital union, two people becoming something greater than they once were. As some of the petitioners in these cases demonstrate, marriage embodies a love that may endure even past death. The ruling continues. It would misunderstand these men and women to say they disrespect the idea of marriage. Their plea is that they do respect it. Respect it so deeply that they seek to find its fulfillment for themselves. Their hope is not to be condemned to live in loneliness, excluded from one of the civilization's oldest institutions. As I read this, James, I'm hearing myself, and so this is from CBS News Online, and the article is called Supreme Court Marriage is a Fundamental Right for Gay Couples. And as I read some of these things, I'm thinking, part of me is thinking, yes, finally, and then the other part is thinking, my God, it's about time. It took so long, and we live in America, and so some things we're labeled as forward-thinking people. There are some places where collectively we are moving very slow and archaically and embracing certain things that seem like common sense. And I know yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about just this us versus them and how that harms people in every category. And so I'd like to sort of just kind of get your feedback of just, you know, what you've been feeling, what have you been hearing from your beautiful friends and family, and what has the reactions been like?
Well, first I want to say, too, yeah, when you were reading that, it's so interesting, right? It sounds so formal, right? My feedback is much more like layman's terms. You know, it's just like, yeah, this happened, and this is, you know, it just seems much more current. But when you're reading that article, it's like, wow, it is so much more formal. And even just using the word civilization, right? It's like, we're like, we've been civilized society for a really, really long time. So, exactly, when you look at it like that, it's like, we're kind of late with this. But then, I don't know, just how I've lived in the world, and, you know, I'm from Brooklyn as well, so it's like, it's never really seemed like an issue in real life for me, you know, because I've grown up in a very diverse place where, for the most part, people are accepting of each other. So it's just interesting, though, I guess, for a country, and I think that's just probably why there's this delay, that it's just, you have to take into account so many different, for lack of a better word, factions, right? Factions of people, like each state, and not only each state, but within states, there's such a variety of different people, and we both know that's like one of the most beautiful things about our country is that there is so much diversity. But I just think with that, it takes a while for people to decide on certain things. And with this particular issue, because it wasn't already included, I guess it was just easier for it not to be included over time, or did it really matter, you know? But of course it matters, because it is about love, and it's about people partnering up and creating families and living their lives. But how it plays out in the political sphere is just like, we're adding this in, does it have to be there? And then most of politics is just about debate and can go on and on for quite some time. So I think that's what we've seen in our lifetime, and now it's just coming to this, you know, precipice where it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't such a big deal after all, in terms of how it plays out, because this is already existing in our country. There are already same-sex partnerships and families. My best friend from first grade is already having her own family, her own mixed, blended, whatever words you want to use for that. So it's just like, for a lot of people, this ruling is just catching up to where society already is.
I mean, I say it's about time. I know that, and I shared this with you yesterday, that I had no idea that this ruling was even, like, up for a decision this coming, you know, last week. I had no idea. And when we found out about it, I was at a retreat, and we were 16 women. The youngest was 20, and the oldest was a woman who was a grandma, and all different backgrounds and races, and within that 16, those 16 women. And when somebody read the news, when they read it online and they shared it with all of us, there was no hesitation, James. Everyone erupted in cheer, in laughter, in hugs. It felt like the ball had just dropped in Times Square, and we were just Happy New Year, but this happiness was, it was so heart-opening. It was like we were hugging woman to woman, heart to heart, and so grateful to be living in these days where I can witness that this is moving forward, because this is love. This is like regulation and legislation getting in the way of people who are trying to build together, a life together, love together, and sharing those rights as a family, which everyone deserves.
Of course, and I think if you ask each individual person that, right? If you're invited to lunch with somebody and you discuss the concepts of love and compassion and family coming from that direction, I think people get it. But then we all go back into our lives, and some people's lives are more politically based than others, or some people's lives are more rigid, right? That there's certain structures or beliefs that they already have that don't necessarily meet what a ruling like what happened stands for. So it's kind of like this back and forth that a lot of people go through. And you and I talked about this too. In psychology, the term is called cognitive dissonance. And it's interesting because even that term kind of sounds like so formal, but, you know, cognitive is just our thoughts or beliefs, and then dissonance is when, like, two things don't connect, right? So we look for resonance and harmony in life. So if you don't have resonance and harmony, you have dissonance. And every person has some type of cognitive dissonance going on in their mind, meaning that there is either one or two thoughts or beliefs that when you put them right next to each other, they kind of contradict each other in some way. And when that happens for people and they're not aware of it, it actually causes, like, discomfort in their lives. That's what causes stress. You know, we all know that stress is one of the biggest things, at least in our country, that people experience, and we just get used to having it. And then it accumulates, but then it kind of creates the lens in how we see the world. And we kind of want to get rid of that stress. So one of the ways that our mind kind of tricks us into thinking that we can get rid of the stress is by, like, oh, well, I could just get rid of that contradictory belief that is causing me this stress. And even what I'm saying to you right now, for a lot of people, just happens unconsciously. Right. So when that's going on, we have a lot of, like, good-hearted people, even well-meaning people, and then they have this stuff going on for them. And like I said, we all have it with one thing or another. So with a big decision like this, other people, they might be like, yeah, I get it. Like, I know so-and-so, and I'm so happy for them. But then they go back to their culture, or they go back to a job or a family, right, that doesn't have that belief. And they're like, oh, but I also love my family, and they have this belief. So then without them even knowing it, they have these two conflicting beliefs going on. And then it creates this inner turmoil. Like, it's some type of stress and some type of, like, discontentedness. And that actually is what takes away from the love and happiness and joy that we want to be feeling. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic that goes on for people, and that's happening